to love.
It's Timmy time!
Yes, it is.
Hello, everyone. How are you? It's Timmy time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're having some technical issues. Hopefully we will get Nathan Edmonds from Birmingham, England, on Skype very shortly. It's going to be a small, intimate talk. It's going to be the best one because we've got Sonya Haskins, the mother of esports teams, with us. And we're going to talk about how to make a team, what's the best way about going about it, branding, and getting the team out there. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, Sonya.
Okay, so my name is Sonya Haskins, and I actually played in the first season of...
Can we hear you?
Testing.
Try that one.
Testing. Oh, yeah, that's better. Yeah, I can be loud, but I'm not quite that loud with all the chatter. So, okay, so I played in first season of VR League. VR League is sponsored by Oculus and ESL. This season, Intel sponsored it as well, first season. I am one of the few female players who plays professionally, competitively, and I'm also one of the only seated players because I have some health problems and it's hard for me to stand up for long periods, so I actually play VR in a chair. So just a side note there for you guys who own land-based entertainment centers, always bear that in mind that everybody who comes into your center, not only, we've talked a lot about the healthy, young white males, but, well, you've talked about young white males, but you haven't even addressed the factor of not everybody can stand up for a 20-minute experience or a 10-minute experience or even, a 5-minute experience. So you need to bear in mind that, people have different needs. And
Some of us are a little bit older.
It doesn't have to do with older, Tim. It could just be that they can't stand up a long time. So come on, don't start picking on
Sonya,
age
let's get into this. When creating a team, especially with esports, how do you go about doing that? Do you do something like a Lou Pearlman where you're making a boy band and you find the best tank, 2 DPS, and a healer? What's the best way about going about that? Or do you look for culture or how people play with each other? How do you do that?
Well, all those things are going to be important. So for you guys, if you have, whether you're wanting to create a team for your arcade or entertainment center, or whether you want to sponsor a team, for example, you're going to be looking for a team that works well together. And obviously you do have to have the factor of different people who play positions. So depending on what game it is, you're going to want to make sure that, for example, let's say you have a game with, like Echo Arena, you have strikers, bruisers, you have different people who play different roles. Well, you don't want 3 people who do the exact same thing on a team, so you're going to want to have variety there. But the main thing right now is, I hate to admit it, but the main thing right now is motivated people who want to play, who are going to be committed to a team. So if you can draw those people into your center and offer them some type of incentive to play on a team in your center, then that's the best thing you're looking for at this point.
How do you motivate people to play on a team together, to work together as a team?
So to motivate them to play together, I think that, again, it goes back to something we've addressed a lot this week, or these past couple of days, which is relationships. And so you have a lot of people who want to play with their siblings, and, and I'm not talking 10-year-olds, I'm talking older guys who want to come in and play with their siblings, or their friends. So you have a lot of people who want to come in and just do that with their buddy. So offering things like passes and stuff for them to get as much practice as they want is good. The gamers really like swag, so that's another thing. If you as an entertainment center can most of these guys will literally even pay to play and put in hours of playtime and practice time. If you simply say, okay, well, our entertainment center is going to sponsor you and we're giving you a t-shirt. It's like crazy what people will do for a special t-shirt. So that's motivation, honestly enough, in a lot of cases. We work our tails off for V-Respawn, and we don't even get t-shirts.
Do you have coaches? Is there, I've got some VR esports people here. Do you have one member of your team who is a coach, who goes along and actually pushes you forward?
I wouldn't say we necessarily have coaches, more than we have strategists. So it's usually one team member who does kind of the strat plannings and stuff like that, and kind of runs practices and whatnot. But I wouldn't necessarily call them a coach specifically because a lot of times they're also the roster players.
How many out here actually play on a team? Who wants to start a team? Awesome. Let's get into a little bit of branding. Let's
Right.
talk about branding. Now, you heard my theme song coming in. That's the last time it's going to be played over this weekend. I'm sorry. I know it's annoying, but it is very important. You now know that I'm quite loud and obnoxious because of that theme song. And I'll say some things that don't necessarily go along the mainstream, but that's okay because now you know who I am. When you're talking about branding and talking about esports and VR esports, how do you brand a VR esports team to stand out amongst all of this other stuff that's out there?
So here's the thing: so most of you didn't raise your hand that you wanted to start a team. So I'm going to adjust the question just a little bit and talk about your business in general. Okay? So one idea is to go with the team and start a team. And then the other thing is with your business, whether it's a land-based entertainment or whether you actually have a team or whatever, you're going to want to reach out to the communities that actually are going to be coming to your place. You're going to want to reach out to media, and a lot of people don't take advantage of this. Like, they don't think of branding. They think of branding as, oh, I went out and I made my business an LLC or whatever, and so I have my brand. But then they kind of stop and don't know how to go forward from there. And so really what you need to do is you not only have to promote yourself socially, like social media. I tell all my guys on the teams, you need a Twitter account. You need to be on Reddit posting positive stuff. You need to be on Discord. You need to have a Facebook account, not with your personal stuff, but with your brand name. You need to have all that stuff so that you can
Speaking
promote
of that,
the
I'm going to
brand.
interrupt you really quickly. I hear that we have Nathan Edmonds. He's not on Skype now. Never mind. Keep on going.
So basically, I tell the guys who are starting teams with the VR League, I say, you need to go right now and on social media, create your brand name, everything you have. And here's the thing, too. You can't be a jerk. You can't go out there and post a bunch of trashy stuff. If you're promoting your brand, you want to let people know that I'm here as a professional. And this is important in gaming because a lot of people, I'm not saying you guys, but a lot of the younger people who will come in and maybe be helping you with the social media aspect or who are coming into your centers and stuff, they'll post a lot of trash. And so it's important to just keep it professional and say, whatever, you can ignore the trash and the trolls and all that, but we're going to approach it professionally because we're targeting the other percentage of people who don't want to have to deal with that. And so that's important for brand, I think, too. Create a positive brand, not just a brand.
Speaking about a lot of the trash talk, I know esports, there's a lot of trash talk. We've got Nathan on. Apparently we have Nathan on Skype. Nathan, say hello. Nathan? Nathan is an amazing kid from Birmingham. He's CEO of Radiant Esports out of Birmingham, UK. And is he up there?
Yeah, he is.
He is?
Yeah, he said he is.
Awesome. Nathan, please tell us a little bit about Radiant Esports, what you're doing, how there you are. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about Radiant Esports.
It's an esports organisation, so we're based here in the UK, and I think we took more. It's only been the last couple of weeks, really. So at the moment, I'm in a Birmingham venue, House of Gamers. We're currently doing our 13-day streaming event to break the world record. Super stressful to organise, but hopefully that pays off at the end. So it's just started at 6 p.m. today. And that's going on for 13 days straight. But yeah, Radiant is just like any other esports organisation, but we're very, very new. It's still quite a small one at the moment. So we're based here, obviously in the UK, in Birmingham. We've kind of we've taken that approach recently because why not? Like, why not go local and then go worldwide in a sense? And I think me being starting it when I was 15, obviously I was very young and I didn't really understand business landscape and how to market properly. So I started going worldwide, and then I focused on the UK, and now we're back at Birmingham. But obviously, I think it's very important for an esports organisation anyway to start locally, to start working with the resources you have locally, then pushing to like nationally, and then pushing obviously worldwide. But yeah, we're based in Birmingham at the moment. We're still growing. It's only a couple thousand followers on Twitter, Instagram, and stuff like that. But no, hopefully the future is hopeful, I guess. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nathan. I've got Sonya here. She's the mother of teams for VR Esports, and we were talking about starting a team. And I knew you started Radiant Esports by yourself. And we were talking about how we first started. How do you get your team together? Do you start with the people and who you play with, or do you look for DPS? Do you look for healers? Do you look for tanks? How do you put your team together first?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, God, going back when I was 15, I think you start as like a clan, if you want to call it that, or like, you know, a group of friends. You don't look at it and go, well, especially when I was that young, you don't look at it and go, oh, I want this to be a big brand, you know what I mean? I want loads of different teams. So we started Call of Duty, and I think Call of Duty is still one of our main audiences. I think where you start is normally what you continue, what you grow. So Call of Duty is one of our main ones. But yeah, I think starting a team now in 2019 is difficult. Like, I think anybody can admit that. It's really, really hard. You need to lose a lot to gain a little, really. And I think you can't, especially in esports startups are very, very unlikely to get money in the first year or first 2 years. 2 seconds, mate. But it's sorry, it's a streaming event. And yeah, it's you know, you get your money from sponsorships, and to get a sponsor, what you need to do, you need to grow your brand and show, okay, this is how many impressions I'm getting, this is how many, you know, interactions I'm getting, and that takes a while, you know what I mean? We're still getting 2 million impressions a month. That's all right, but it's not good enough to get the big boy sponsors, you know what I mean, that are going to pay everything we need to cover. So it's like, it's difficult, it's really, really difficult, and I think in esports, like normally a normal startup, you get investment and then you grow it from there. You've got a normal budget, but I think for esports organisations specifically, I guess social media is free, so that takes up a big cost away. And I think anybody could do one. You get a graphics design, you get started straight away, but you need your amateur teams, and I think that's why I think anyway. The amateur scene is so important, because without the amateur scene, you don't get the professional scene. You know what I mean?
You transitioned right into an amazing spot where I wanted to take it back to Sonya over here regarding sponsorship, because I know we've talked about a lot of sponsorship early on, and Sonya was talking about making sure that all the team members really do their social media, get on Reddit, do their Discord, get on Twitter, get on Twitch. Sonya, how do you see getting sponsorships available? I know Nathan has been working his rear end off, getting sponsorships for his team. How do you do it? How do we do it here in the U.S.? How do you do it with the VRE League?
Well, so it's going to differ depending on the leagues and stuff, but basically the principle is the same. You want to have your team members go out and promote themselves individually, and then promote your team as a group. And then one thing that you need to do as leaders or owners is you can really go out and reach out to, for example, the leagues, the media, different people who can promote you. Send them stories about team people. So like, for example, if you have team members who are, like in the VR League this past season and this season too, there's one team that has a couple, a husband and wife who play together. That's great for the media because people like to hear stories. It's all about relationships and real people. And so if you present that to them, you're promoting yourself better. The same thing with your centers. Even if it's not a team, again, I keep trying to go back to that just because some of you aren't looking for team-specific information, but you want to tell them stories about, like the guy that said yesterday about the $1,000 and, you know, asking the parents' permission to send that. Well, that's a great story. I mean, people want to hear things like that and be like, maybe I should let my kid to go to these places and play games, or maybe I should let my kid be on an esports team, or maybe I should let my kid participate in a league. And so I think it's really important to get that stuff out there because otherwise they're not going to know about it unless you tell them. And so you need to find somebody who knows how to write a press release and send that out to the people who can get it out to a larger group of people. Because if you post it on your social media, you're going to reach a certain amount of people. If you give that to, for example, press or people who can get that out for you, they're going to get that to a much larger group of people. So that's one thing about
Thank you.
that.
I want to take it off to Nathan really quickly. We're running up against lunch very soon, so I know we're going to ask you some quick questions. Nathan, if you can hang out for about another hour, we've got another thing coming up a little bit later regarding VR esports. We'd love to have you continue on. But how do you promote yourself other than social media and getting your team out there?
I think the biggest thing is networking. Obviously, when I was very young starting, I didn't think of that because I'm very, very young and normally the events are 18 plus. But with the company I work with at the moment, apart from Radiant, is Esports Insider. So they host like networking events, business conferences, and stuff like that. You know, you're looking at one night event that costs £20 to enter. You can go meet some of the biggest people in esports. You can listen to an interesting panel, and then you get food and drink. And realistically, if you can spare up time and go and attend these events, you know, meeting someone there and then and getting their contact is much more better than dropping them an email, which they're probably going to ignore. They'll probably get just some standard response. So actually meeting people and going out your way to network, and I guess you know, the big conferences, they cost a lot. You know, you're looking at £500 tickets for, you know, three-day events, but really, if you have that budget, attend, you know, network as much as you can, really, and meeting these brands and meeting these sponsors so you can get contacts. And then, you know, more contacts the merrier, really, because as the old standard says, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know at the end of the day. And the more contacts you have and the more reaches you have, then you can go for that.
Great advice. Thank you very much. So really quickly, do we have any questions out here really quickly for Nathan or for Sonya?
Okay. The question is, why you decided to create own team instead of joining a well-established existing
Excellent
brand?
question is, why do you guys start your own team as opposed to joining an established one?
Honestly, you could do either. It just depends on if there's a well-established team that, first of all, have you been invited to a well-established team? You know, are you good enough, and are they interested in you? And then you want to play with them. Just because someone's well-established or good doesn't mean you're going to mesh with them well personality-wise, so that's one thing to consider. And then a lot of land-based entertainment centers, like, for example, right now in Asia, are creating new teams for the leagues because they're getting a lot more LBEs there. And so they're actually creating lots and lots of new teams for some of the games that are coming out. So sometimes it's a matter of wanting to get in from the ground up. You know, this is a great opportunity to be in VR esports because it's so new and people don't seem to realize, man, you get in there, like right now, last week, we had one spot in the VR league where no one got the money because there weren't enough teams. There was one spot that ended up, there was cash there waiting to be given away and nobody got it. So I would say it doesn't really matter either way. And I would maybe, for you, that question, also talk privately with these guys here because they might be able to give you a little more on that. But as far as teams, personally, I would just say, find a team that you mesh well with. It doesn't really matter if you go with an established or not. It just is your personal preference, really, and what you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, obviously, if we're talking from just a player perspective, I think follow that advice. But if, you know, there's loads of different jobs in esports, and I think that the one I fit in anyway is like marketing, social media, stuff like that. That's what I enjoy. And I think it's just a case of, from my experience anyway, you know, I'm 19 and I'm full-time in esports. So I think I've done 4 or 5 years of volunteer work in esports. And I think that is so vital. I'm getting that experience under my belt because otherwise you can't. You're not going to go straight into esports and get a full-time job. You do need that experience. And to get that, you do need to volunteer. Of course, for people older than me, I can understand it's difficult. You've got bills to pay, you need stuff like that, you need a paid job. But I think if you have the spare time, put some time towards volunteering in esports, put some time towards learning and stuff like that. But I think why I created my own team was because I was young, I had lots of free time, and why not? Looking back on it, then I think that was very important because without Radiant, I wouldn't have my career in esports, and they kind of mesh 2 and 2. And obviously, the end goal is to turn Radiant into a full-time job, but that's until we get, you know, and sponsorship money and stuff like that. But yeah, I think you can do multiple different things in esports other than playing.
Great. I think we have time for maybe one more question before lunch, and people are starting to line up. Also, I want to take this opportunity to mention about Sam Immersive and Stack Up in the back. $10 buy-in. We're splitting the proceeds. Half goes to Stack Up, a great military charity, and the other half goes to the winner. We're going to have finals here on the stage. So $10, come join, have fun. Any other questions? One last question before lunch.
What do you see emerging in VR esports? What do you see emerging in VR esports? What titles are coming out, or what types of gameplay, styles of gameplay do you think are going to take the world by storm coming up?
Guys?
Yeah, I can actually answer that. So it's really cool. Gosh, there are so many neat things coming out. I mean, right now we have first-person shooters, of course, and then I don't know if you're familiar with Echo Arena, but it's more like a sport game, so like zero gravity, soccer in space. And then we have some other things coming up that there's another first-person shooter that might be added in Season 4, and that's already been announced, so I can say that. And there are some racing games out there for VR esports, and I'm not talking about just VR League, but just thinking across the gamut of the scale, like right now with you know, there's literally everything. This is why I say people need to see what they like, get involved with it, and what we look for, I will say this before we stop, but one really important thing is for developers, for anybody here that's developing games, they're looking for very specific things whenever they are talking about what kind of game can be used for a competitive VR esport. And actually, I think we're going to talk about that this afternoon, aren't we?
We are, right after lunch.
Yeah, so basically I can get into that more, but I know there are certain criteria that you have to fit in order to be that. So that might be a better question to go on into after lunch. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's go have some lunch. Enjoy. Thank you, Nathan, for hanging out with us, and hopefully you'll be able to stay
Cheers,
with
thank
us
you,
in a
guys.
little bit.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.